Okay, here we go, part two.
About how old were you when you started thinking about it?
I was about 6 years old when I
Okay.
was young.
Did you continue with that and still have that desire as you grew up?
Yes, I did.
Why did you want to be a police officer?
I just wanted to help people, and that was the one career that I thought I could help people in.
Every cop that ever interviews, and I said it, and every cop I know says it, they want to be a cop to help people. Now, that's not just a line. You honestly believe that you're going to be able to go in there and be a good person and not do the things that you see other cops doing. And then once you're there and you find out about policy and crooked politicians and crooked chiefs of police and crooked lieutenants and crooked captains and crooked sergeants and crooked cops, and you get caught up in this, holy shit, I just got to survive, and I got to keep my nose clean, and I got to follow policy, and I got to follow the law, and I got to follow case law, and I got to follow not to piss off any of my supervisors, and I got to not piss off the public, and I got to not piss off the DA. Once you get into it, it's like, damn, you're not helping people. You're just trying to survive. Rick, you can't say that. That's not true. All right, whatever. I'm just telling you. That's why she said to help people. She believed that when she entered police force, just like all cops do.
Okay. In high school, did you do anything to try to further your goal to become a police officer?
Yes, sir, I did. I did ride-alongs with the Arlington Police Department.
Okay. And after you graduated from high school, have you looked in or researched what you would need as far as background to apply and become a police officer?
I know I'm interrupting, but I just want you to observe things that jurors may be observing, the DA and this camera is observing. I want you to watch her neck and her chest on her breathing pattern, and you'll see her neck as she swallows a little bit, her heart rate's up. I mean, I can just tell her neck's a little flushed anyway with blood flow because her heart rate's up. But watch her neck and her chest are breathing, because those are things that you're looking at when you're evaluating people. And not everybody does it, but some people do. And it only takes one or two jurors to go, oh man, she's lying. She's trying to play us. Did you see when she answered that? She was lying. I mean, that's just the way it is. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter.
Here in Texas.
Yes, sir, I did.
And what types of things did you need to do before you became a police officer?
I had to attain a certain number of college hours to apply to different departments.
Okay. So after you're out of high school, did you start going and to try to achieve those college hours?
Yes, sir, I did.
Where'd you go?
I went to Tarrant County Community College in Arlington, and then I went to UTA to finish, to do my degree in criminology.
Okay. Did you move out of your house after you got out of high school?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. How'd you pay for your school?
On my own.
Okay. Did you continue working at the sales job you had?
No, sir, I did not.
What did you do to earn money to go to school and to live on?
I started working at TGI Fridays and was a waitress there for a few weeks.
Again, we're making her human. She's a waitress. She's just a normal person. She grew up in a broken home. She went to college. She wanted to be a cop. She followed her goal. She's a good person. That's what the purpose of all these questions are.
A lot of years.
Okay. How many hours were you working while you were going to school?
Full-time as well.
40 hours?
More than 40 hours.
Okay. And how many hours would you take at a semester usually?
Full-time, 12 hours a semester.
12 hours?
Wow, so she had a full-time job and she took a full sheet. Man, she's driven. She's a good person. Rick, why are you picking? I'm not. I'm saying what the guy's trying. These are the things that you need to understand, and you're going to understand it more when the prosecution jumps on her and starts bringing up how evil she is because she slept with a man who was married, and how she didn't care about his kids, and how she shot a man who was eating ice cream, and she should have known he was eating ice cream, and she should have at least shot somebody who wasn't eating ice cream. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yes, sir.
All right. Once you started going to the University of Texas at Arlington, what was your major?
It was criminology.
Okay. How many hours did you eventually accumulate there at UTA?
It was a little over 100 hours.
So we have somebody that works hard, good ethic, came from a broken home, played in a mariachi band, and now she studied hard. Hell, I forgot what the hell she was saying. I was going off this stuff.
Okay. You didn't get enough quite to get a degree, though?
No, sir.
All right. Now, your research into hours needed, had you looked into the Dallas Police Department, how many hours they require?
Yes, sir, I did.
How many did they require at the time you applied?
Yeah, it was about 45 hours.
Okay. Did you make a decision then at that time to apply with the Dallas Police Department?
Yes, sir, I did.
And were you accepted?
Yes, I was.
When did you start at the academy?
First day was November 6th of 2013.
November 6th?
Oh, I know what I was going to say. She worked a degree in criminology, which means she is educated in her job, and she understands her job, and she has a lot of training in law enforcement. So we're getting more to credibility of the witness.
2013.
Yes, sir.
How did it feel to get accepted to the Dallas Police Department?
It was good. It was the one thing I've always wanted to do since I was little, and was happy I finally got to reach my goal.
Okay. I want to talk with you a little bit about...
So you're going to hear later that when she lost her job, or even if you don't hear her say it specifically, she wanted to be a cop. She worked to be a cop. She went to school in criminal justice. Her whole goal was to be a cop and to help people. And now they want to send her to jail for 99 years because she used her training and her specific knowledge of being a cop and her training and education of being a cop. And she made a decision as a cop with all that training, and now you want to send her to prison. That's kind of the theme we're going here.
What you went through and what you learned at the academy, okay?
Yes, sir.
How long is the Dallas Police Academy?
It's 8.5 months long.
Okay. How many days a week do you attend the academy?
Monday through Friday.
How many hours?
40 hours.
40 hours a week?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how many classmates did you have in the academy?
We started out with 46 recruits and ended up with 36 recruits.
Okay, so that says, wow, they knocked out 10 people a class, and she was one of the one that graduated. She must be good. Now I can argue that not only did she go to criminal justice in college, she was graduated academy where a lot of people couldn't make it. We're dealing with a good, educated, knowledgeable person here.
Okay. And what types of classes are you taking during the day at the academy?
You're taking a lot of penal code, code of criminal procedure. You're learning how to do traffic stops, use of force. You go to the shooting range. So.
Okay. Let me ask you a few questions about that. Were you trained when confronting a suspect who you may feel is dangerous on how to handle that situation?
Okay, so now we're getting into specific training on why she reacted and did what she did. This isn't just a cheap trick. This is how the Supreme Court says you have to judge cops. This case has so many kind of little loopholes. She was a cop. She was in uniform, but she was off duty. She thought she was in her home. Should we judge her as a cop or not as a cop? The Supreme Court says you must judge cops as what other cops would do in the same situation is whether or not other cops would think it's reasonable. Every cop is going to say, if I walked into my house and there was a guy and he came at me, I would draw my gun. And if I thought my fear was in danger, I would shoot. If I thought my life was in danger and I was in fear of my life. Every cop is going to say that. And that's what the law says. You must judge police officers when they use force. Well, it's all getting convoluted because they're saying, well, she wasn't on duty. Well, but they want to judge her for, why didn't she use her radio? Why didn't she get first aid? Why? And then they want to go, well, she wasn't on duty. She wasn't a cop, so it shouldn't count. She was in full uniform. She got off. She was walking in her home. It's reasonable that she would still react as a cop, being in uniform, coming home, still armed, gun belt, etc. So that's where he's going to get into now. Why did you make the decisions you made? Because of my prior training, and he'll get into experience in a minute, which is what the Supreme Court says you're supposed to judge officers' use of force.
Judge, I don't object to the lady at this point.
State whether it's a fact or not that you had some training about whether you were trained in the area of handling a suspect you might be dangerous.
Judge, I'm going to object to the form of the question for to state a particular matter. I request to be question and answer.
Okay, you notice she's like pausing and looking. A lot of witnesses, and she loses this. She does good here. Later on, she'll do bad. That pause, when you hear an objection in a courtroom, you wait for the judge to rule. You let the attorneys argue it out, and you let them decide on whether you answer it. Now, sometimes, if somebody asked a question and I thought I could make a good point, and the guy objected, I'd spit my answer out anyway. And then if he got his objection won, it doesn't matter. My answer was out. So she's doing good by saying, okay, I don't know why the prosecution is objecting, but I'm going to let my attorney argue it out, and I'm going to wait for the judge to tell me whether or not to answer it. That's probably what you're supposed to do. But again, sometimes, you know, I would just spit out my answer because I know it was going to hurt him and it was a dumb question and I want to answer it. And I wish the attorney wouldn't have objected. So I would spit out an answer. Other times, if my attorney wouldn't object, I wouldn't answer, and I would turn to my attorney and stare at him like, are you going to freaking object, or do you want me to answer this? And if he didn't object, then I'd answer it and screw his case. And then later be like, man, why did you say that? And I go, you dummy. I looked at you. You didn't object. I'm going to answer truthfully. I can't help it if you don't like it. Either object or I'm answering truthfully. So that's kind of what's going on here, why you see her pausing, which is good. And that's sometimes your lawyer will object if he thinks which I think this lawyer should have done later on, if he thinks you're getting too caught up in the quick, short answers. You know, this DA starts badgering her, and badgering is you ask a question, you get an answer. You follow up with another question, you get another answer. And you get on this routine, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And next thing you know, you got her answering something that she shouldn't have answered because she didn't think about it. So you don't want to let that tempo get away from you on your witness. And this defense attorney lets her get caught up in that later. But here it's a good thing. Hang on, got a call. Okay, sorry. We're back on this. I don't know what I was talking about, so we'll just continue.
You can answer.
Oh, okay. So we were talking about the objection, and now he said you can answer because the objection was overruled. So when the defense object, he goes, I don't think this is, I didn't hear the objection, but let's just say he objected for relevance. I don't really care about her education, or I don't want her testifying, or this is secondhand, this is hearsay, whatever the objection was. And then the judge says whether she sustains it or she overrules it. If she overrules it, it means your objection doesn't count. Answer the question. If she sustains it, that means she can't answer. So the judge says overruled, so now it says you can answer, and she's going to answer.
Yes, we did.
And I always, when they objected, because sometimes when they object, they would like argue for 10 minutes. And that's a long time when you're sitting up there. And then they come back to me and go, you can answer the question. And I'd look at the judge and go, I forgot the question. And usually everybody kind of laugh and be like, no shit, so did I. And they'd be like, okay, have the court reporter read it back. Or the prosecution will say, you know what, I'll just restate it. Because if the guy that asked the question, if he can get to restate it, in all that arguing, he figured out how to word it differently to get the different information that he wanted. So he may change the question. So sometimes it's good if your attorney goes, Your Honor, I'd like the question read back and give my client a chance to answer it. Because, you know, that's what the original question was. But a slick attorney will be like, you know what, Your Honor, you don't have to read it back. I'll just re-ask it. And then they slide in another sleazy little answer. So you got to be ready for that one too. Here we go. Hang on. Alexa's going off.
Alexa, some of the things.
Alexa, stop.
Were you instructed on commands?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell the jury how you instructed about command.
We did a lot of verbal commands, and the one command that was important is to always see the suspect's hands.
Okay, why did she say this? Because she's setting up, and this is why I said earlier he should have brought in an expert on fight or flight, because then the jury could connect. What he's doing now is he's setting up that she got training on specifically always to make sure you see the hands, which all cops do. But she's saying that because later, when we get to the incident And she says, I asked him to see his hands and he came at me and I couldn't see his hands because it was dark and he was in my apartment or what I thought was my apartment. I was in fear of my life and I shot like my training programmed me to do. So that's why this is important. That's why he's getting it out. This is what I call as a setup question, or we're basically, chumming the waters for the jury. So later, when they hear this again, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember she did receive specific training like that in the academy, like she said. So it gives her statement later more credibility.
Okay. And why did you need to see the suspect's hands? Why were you trained to learn that?
The hands, if you can't see them, they're usually reaching for a weapon that's going to be used against us.
Okay, that was not a good comeback answer. It's not the hands they're usually reaching for a weapon. The hands are a threat because they can either contain a weapon or they could reach for a weapon. So therefore, I want to make sure that they're empty, I can see they're empty, and they're not a threat, so then I can assess the situation and make the proper determination of what action I'm going to take. She doesn't have a lot of courtroom testimony, and she's not selling her answers. So for her to say, we're always taught to see the hands because they always contain a weapon, a juror's going to be like, well, damn, ain't no damn wonder why the cops are always shooting everybody that moves. If they're teaching them in an academy that hands always contain a weapon. They don't always train a weapon, and we're not taught that. She just misspoke. Now, a good attorney who understood that or with some cop experience would clean this up and say, well, you just testified that they always have a weapon. Isn't it true that they teach you that they could possibly contain a weapon and that they're a threat, and that's why you need to see the hands to make sure they don't contain a weapon? And now he cleans it up. The prosecution could come back later and go, isn't it true that you were trained that anytime you can't see the hands, they have a weapon so you can shoot them? Is that what you're telling me you were trained? And he could use this against her. One little misspeak on that stand will get your ass tore up. And believe me, my ass looked like a dog chewed it out many times, but over time you learn and you're like, okay, I know what you're up to. I know where you're going. I know. And you learn to anticipate and you learn to make sure you have your story and your answers and your reports and you're fully versed in the laws and why you did, and you can articulate it so the jury can understand it so an attorney can't make you look like shit and use it against you. Even the best people testifying get caught with their pants down sometime and their pee-pee gets stepped on. All right, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I'm at 17 minutes. We're going to make number 3. We'll end that there.